From Parx Casino in Bensalem, it's the betPARX postgame show presented by Pond, Lehocky, Marc Farzetta, Seth Joyner, Derrick Gunn on the heels of a 20-16 Philadelphia Eagles victory. It might not have been the prettiest thing. It might not have been in control the entire time by your Philadelphia Eagles. Your defense able to keep the Browns out of the end zone, and Jalen Hurts able to make a clutch throw at the end there to seal the deal to A.J. Brown, who came up with probably an even more clutch reception, as he always likes to say, always open. Eagles, of course, improved to 3-2 now on the season, and the Cleveland Browns continue to be a pretty terrible football team, which is why a lot of people wanted to see the Eagles dominate this game. Unfortunately, Seth, we didn't see a dominating performance from the Eagles today, and I know we've said this many times before, and I want to cut the head off the snake immediately. Last year, we used way too many times found a way to win the game. They didn't control. How impressive, if at all, was this win today by the Eagles, in your opinion?
Well, any win in the National Football League is an impressive win. I will say this, though. I think that in spurts today and in certain situations, the Eagles' offense looked a hell of a lot better than it's looked the previous couple of weeks. I still would like to see the run game be a lot more efficient. I was talking to D. Gunn about this, during the game. I kind of feel like the offensive line is maybe not playing at the level that it needs to play at. Any kind of run game up the middle seems to be non-existent sometimes. Most good runs that they get are off tackle or between guard and tackle to the outside. They've got to get that fixed. I still don't want to see my quarterback running the ball 14 times either, though. And I know some of those were tush pushes, but there were quite a few where he actually ran the football. But overall, I think from an offensive standpoint, you got to be happy. At least it's a step in the right direction. They needed to win the game. It wasn't overly impressive, but at the end of the day, they won the football game. On to the next. Defensively, a little bit of the same. I think when you can hold a team to 244 yards total offense, albeit the Cleveland Browns, still it's one of those situations where it's a step in the right direction. You get 5 sacks, I believe it is, on Deshaun Watson today. Again, it's the Cleveland Browns, but you got to start somewhere. At least they look better in certain situations. And like I said, above all, they need to win this game. There's no way that they, in my opinion, they lose this game. The score probably isn't reflective of what it really should have been from a defensive perspective, because 7 of those 16 points you can attribute to the blocked field goal return for a touchdown by former Eagle Rodney McLeod.
Yeah.
So I think overall there's bits and pieces where the Eagles have looked good. Early they didn't look good, but they seem to kind of figure out how to make adjustments along the way. Impressive day by Cooper DeJean. Just seemed to be all over the place, and really impressed with Vic Fangio making the decision that he was no longer going to sit back and allow teams to just pick us apart. He was going to come with pressure. He was going to play the corners up. The corners were up and were challenging at the line of scrimmage. Towards the end of the game, you see C.J. Gardner-Johnson in some of those blitz situations, instead of playing so far off, getting up on Njoku and being able to break up that play. I think that positive, aggressive mindset only bodes well for this football team moving forward.
Gunner, before the game, when we talked about it on the pregame show, you talked about how this needed to be a get-right game for the Eagles. Yep. This needed to be the type of game that the Eagles went out there and kind of righted the ship, took on a confidence about them coming out of this game. Did you see enough from them where you think they did get right in this game?
No, they got right enough to get the W. But like I said in the pregame show, this was a tailor-made opponent for them to do a lot of dominant things. And the defense played well. Jalen Hurts played a clean game, didn't turn the ball over, made some big throws when he had to, beat the blitz when he had to, but they let this Cleveland team hung around. You go back to last week, 9 games were decided by 6 points or less last week in the NFL. Anything and everything could possibly happen, you know. And we're sitting here, we're happy they won, but it's like some of the wins been taken out of your sail because we didn't see some of the things we thought we would see. They were well rested, they were healthy, there were no injuries. I mean, they got the 2 big guys, Devontae and AJ going, both each had a touchdown, each made some big catches. But there's certain things that you still wanted to see. You know, Cleveland hadn't scored more than 18 points in a game this year. They got 16, so you held them below that. But you made it too comfortable for Cleveland to think they could win this game, you know. But again, W's are so hard to come by in the National Football League. They're over 500. You know, they're still at the top of the heap, not the bottom of the heap. And that's all you can ask for right now. And hopefully, you know, some of the injuries they have, especially like Jordan Mailata, is not a serious injury because they have no more wiggle room from this moment forward. And as I said before in the pregame show, this was the healthiest we're going to see this team right now. And, of course, they got nicked up a little bit in this game, so let's see what happens moving forward. But they still have a ways to go to get to where the fan expectation and the media expectation is of what they have when you look at the talent they have on this football field. Mark, the first game of the season, they scored 34 points. The next 4 games, they're averaging 18 points. They haven't scored more than 21 points in a game since that second game of the season. They've gone 21, 16, 15, and now 20. But they're 3-2, and that's what matters the most.
And now 5 games of not scoring in the first quarter either.
Exactly.
Yeah.
5 games. And, oh, by the way, you laughed at me. You heckled me
What?
when I took the over on your so-called over-under sack total.
4.5.
You heckled me. You laughed at me when I took the over.
I'm telling you.
How many sacks do they have, Mark?
As of right now, 5. But Seth and I are very much questioning I think it was the first sack of the game.
I'm with you, but it says in the
Bryce
book
Huff has a half sack.
I
still don't believe it.
They may change the book later tonight, but right now I'm gloating.
Okay.
They got 5 as far as I'm concerned right now.
Good for you. Seth, you know that term. We all know that term, get right game.
Yeah.
And I used it too when talking about this game before. For me, this is the type of game that I like to call a prove-it game. And that's kind of the mindset I had going into it. You know, the Browns are a terrible football team. A lot of people are talking about the Philadelphia Eagles, even in Philadelphia right now, as if they're a terrible football team. They might not even make the playoffs. And, look, I might agree with a lot of the conversation when it comes to firing the head coach.
Yeah.
I was out on Nick Sirianni at the end of last year, for the record, okay? But watching this team play today, I wanted to see a prove-it game. Prove to me you're not as bad as the Cleveland Browns. They were barely better than the Cleveland Browns today is my ultimate takeaway from the game today. Is that too pessimistic or is that legitimate?
No, I think it's pessimistic because what ailed this team isn't something that can be fixed over a week bye. It's just not. You know, you had your top 2 wide receivers out. It showed today how important they were within the scheme of this offense. Your tight end gets injured the first quarter of the game. He's out. His replacement comes into the game. And Grant Calcaterra, let me see, had 4 receptions for 67 yards. That's huge. Mm-hmm. That's huge. Now, to me, that's what backups are supposed to do. You don't have to come in and equal the level of play, but you can't be such a substantial drop-off, you know, that you get no production from that side at all. But I think that, you know, Jalen Hurts not turning the ball over for the first time in how many games, D-Gun?
12, 13.
I mean, that's a big deal because we've been crying about him turning the ball over, fumbling the ball. He scrambled. He made some plays with his legs, didn't turn the ball over. He threw the ball, 25 times today, 16 to 25 for 264 yards, didn't throw an interception today, didn't really throw a ball at all today that looked like it might have been, you know, a turnover. So baby steps, man. I think we all wanted them to come out and just completely mash this team because of how bad they were. But I told you guys in the pregame, this game is not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy because there are just bad ran and bad coach teams in the National Football League. Then when you throw the injuries on top of it, it makes it even that much more. So it wasn't like Cleveland was going to come in here and lay down and let the Eagles just run roughshod over them. You know, they came in and they fought. Myles Garrett got tuned up for a while, made the big block that really brought the game back darn near to even before halftime. Defensively, they've got to find out and figure out who they're going to be. It's great that you see Cooper DeJean coming, okay, but can we show some things where we're going to look like Cooper DeJean is coming, because teams are going to start to adjust for that, and then bring somebody from the other side to adjust for the protection being slid his way and being able to pick it up. So baby steps. Listen, I'm glad that they won the football game. It wasn't as impressive as we wanted to be, but it's a step in the right direction because Jalen played a good game today, okay? Defensively, they made stops where they need to make stops. They made plays where they need to make plays. There wasn't as many missed tackles in this football game as has been throughout the first 4 games of the season. So baby steps, man. Baby steps. We got another sacrificial lamb just right up the road in the Meadowlands next week. Now, I expect for them to go up and dominate that game after this performance today. But baby steps. As bad as they played, this is a baby step in the right direction.
All right, enough of a baby step for you, though, Derrick Gunn?
I'm going to reserve judgment because as I look at this team today, especially coming out of bye where you thought they were healthy, fired up to be at home, there were some things left on the carpet, so to speak, that I thought that they would have cleaned up by now. And, Seth says they have another sacrificial lamb. As we all know, divisional games are so unpredictable. The Giants play better ball. They have the Giants next week at the Giants. I think that's going to be another one of those knockdown, drag-out type fights like those rock'em sock'em robots, I think that's the type of game it's going to be. I think the Eagles with the superior talent should win that game. But, like I said, after watching them play Cleveland, which is basically one of the worst teams in the NFL right now and how they struggled at home, coming out as healthy as they were, I don't chalk up any given W except maybe Jacksonville on the rest of their schedule.
Jacksonville.
And Carolina. Those are the only 2 that I look at right now in their schedule and would possibly chalk up as automatic W's for this team.
All right. Now, what worked so well defensively? We talked about the defense kept them out of the end zone. The only touchdown they had was on that special teams play. Myles Garrett blocked the punt. Rodney McLeod took it to the house. Then they got the touchdown that way. After that, they were able to kick 3 field goals in the game. What worked defensively today, other than the obvious adjustment here, seeing Avonte Maddox not start the game, seeing Cooper DeJean go in there, and he looks like he's every bit of a player. What worked today, you think, defensively? What was the change they made? Anything schematically there set to see the defense have that much success?
Listen, I just think pressure.
Yep.
Pressure makes all the difference in the world. Bringing Cooper DeJean on 2 of the sacks that the Eagles had, at least 2, and it might be 3 if my memory serves me correct. It was because you brought the extra guy and he got pressure, and one of the other defensive ends or one of the other guys were the beneficiary of that. They ran some stunts in the middle. They did some things different that showed that, Vic Fangio is willing to take some chances and do some things differently instead of just sitting back and playing passively. I just think, defensively, that's the mindset that you have to have. And I think your players play up to the mindset that you create as a play caller. If you're aggressive, they're going to play aggressive. If you keep calling everything passive, then they're going to play in a passive way. So if there's one thing that I can take away from it, is Vic Fangio's ability to be a little more aggressive today and to cause a little bit of more chaos on the part of the quarterback. And that's every quarterback's a kryptonite, if you will. It's pressure. If you can pressure the quarterback and force him to make bad throws, especially when you're fortunate enough to get them in 3rd and long situations. And, you heard the broadcast team talk about it all day. They were trying to get to 3rd and manageable. Then, boom, they get a false start penalty. All of a sudden now they went from 3rd and 5 to 3rd and 10, okay? It's so much harder to convert that. Now, if you come with pressure, now there's even much more pressure on him because he knows that he can't make a quick throw, maybe break one tackle and get a first down. You know that they're going to be convergent. And if they drop back and they play in zone, and if they get enough depth and make him throw the underneath route, now everybody rallies to the ball, 4th down, make him punt, get off the field. Just good, solid defense.
Mm-hmm. When you talk about the adjustments, when you see a guy like Cooper DeJean go out there to focus on him now, Derrick, when you look at the way he played the game today, making that debut, if you will, as a guy that's going to be on as a reliable nickel corner, hopefully, in the league, what did you make of his performance today?
I thought it was a step in the right direction. The best way to learn is on field, not looking at film study, not standing on the sideline talking to people about what would you do in a situation. Go out there, make your plays, make your mistakes, come back to the sideline, talk to people that you trust, whether it's the coordinator, whether it's somebody who plays your position with more experience, and go from there. And I thought he played a pretty clean game, for the most part. But that's what you expect, a young kid to go out there. If he's going to be your solid nickel, you've got to get him those reps. And this was a great game for him to get those reps in for more important games coming up down the road.
Certainly, and he looked to be a guy that was always around the football as well. When we come back, we're going to take a look at Jalen Hurts' performance today, as well as maybe one adjustment they made offensively. It was called getting A.J. Brown healthy, because that seemed to work out rather well for the Eagles today. We'll break it down and more when we come back here on the betPARX postgame show from Parx Casino in Bensalem, brought to you by Pond Lehocky.
It's happening again. Those missed tackles are starting to stack up. Your friends pleading with players who can't hear them, sweating it out week after week. But not you. Why? Because whether they score or not, there's always another way to win on the betPARX app. New casino users score up to $1,000 bonus back in their first 24 hours.
Stick to the code. I'm in my zone. Let's go. I'm back in my bag. I'm wrecking the wins and it's making them.
You've got your Sunday obsession, and we got you. Now with Verizon, get NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube TV on us and get every out-of-market Sunday game. Plus $800 off Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6. Only on Verizon.
See you Sunday.
Most people don't know how to get the care they need. The experts at Stay at Home Care can help. Before choosing a caregiver or family member for your care, you need to apply for the Home Care Program. The application process can be complicated. Stay at Home Care can help you navigate through every step. Once approved, your caregiver or family member will receive guaranteed weekly pay, a variety of medical benefits options, paid holidays, paid vacation, and overtime pay. Call Stay at Home Care, here to help every step of the way.
This upcoming segment is brought to you by Parx Casino. And at the betPARX Sportsbook and Parx Casino, Pennsylvania's #1 casino, Parx Casino, that is how you win. Marc Farzetta, Seth Joyner, Derrick Gunn with you here for the betPARX postgame show presented by Pond Lehocky. Jalen Hurts went out there today, and unfortunately, as we highlighted earlier, the Eagles went out there in the first quarter, and yet again, for the 5th consecutive game, 5 straight this season, the Eagles have not scored in the first quarter. Now, they were driving in the later goings there the first quarter, but unable to get into the end zone or get through the uprights just right. They were able to engineer a 14-play, 58-yard field goal drive that amounted with 3 points on a 49-yard field goal converted there by Jake Elliott. And then the Eagles were finally able to get the touchdown when it came to a dime of a throw from Jalen Hurts to A.J. Brown from the 22-yard line. Eagles were able to go up 10-0. When you see a throw like that, does that give you a hint, Seth, that a guy like Jalen Hurts is able to pull focus and throw that ball and drop it in there perfectly to A.J. Brown?
Listen, I'm not one of those people that I've been concerned. I've been concerned because of the turnovers. I'm not concerned with Jalen Hurts as the quarterback of this team. I'm just not. I'm not in that camp. I think that he can be an effective quarterback in the National Football League, and for this team, I think the coaches just have to put him in the best position to succeed. Plain and simple. And, you got all of these weapons so that your quarterback can be the best version of himself that he could possibly be. When he's missing those guys, it's clear that he doesn't have the confidence. They don't even call some of the routes that they called today for these other guys when they were in the previous game, as a backup. They just don't, So it's key to keep those guys healthy, to keep those guys on the field. Don't know, how big of a loss Dallas Goedert is going to be, because as well as Grant Calcaterra played today, they don't have a tight end that can really block. That's Dallas's job, So I think that's going to hurt them in the long run if he misses multiple games in trying to figure out how you run, because the Eagles don't run the ball. I don't know what it is with their offensive line. We've had so much focus put on Jalen Hurts and him turning over the ball and the offense being as efficient as it is. And I was saying earlier, I talked to D Gunn, while the game was going on, and I don't believe that the offensive line is playing at the level that it needs to play at. Oftentimes when Jalen is flushed from the pocket, he's flushed because the middle of the offensive line is being collapsed. So when you're collapsed from the middle, you have no other choice. There's nowhere for you to step up. Now, granted, there's been times when in the games where he really struggled, where there was a good enough pocket for him to step up into and he got out. But if you look at the game today, there were many times he was pushed out of the pocket because the push up the middle. Now, we weren't able to really run the ball that effectively up the middle. I talked about that earlier. I think they really need to get off guard, off tackle, and outside and get Saquon moving where you can get those linebackers moving and you get those blocks, that sets him up to, either cut back. But when you just turn around and hand it to him one-on-one straight down the middle, the Eagles line isn't playing that well in that regard as far as I'm concerned. And here's the other thing, and I was talking to D Gunn about this as well. When you line up with the running back next to the quarterback every single play, okay, if you want to run the ball, all you have is a toss or the ball has to go across the bow. It has to go across the formation. So with good defensive tackles, when they see that, the anticipation on rundowns is, okay, I want to get penetration over here so that I can cut that side of the field off and make him have to cut back. Well, if you really want to be effective, and the second that I said it, they come back the next play, and I said they probably need to put him in the pistol. They got Gainwell in the pistol. They hand the ball off, boom, he springs it for 17, 18, 19 yards on that run. Now, I just think that Saquon Barkley, you need to figure out a way to create doubt in the defense's mind as to where you're going to run the ball. And when he's offset, 95% of the runs have to come across the bow. It's just a fact. There's nowhere else for you to run the ball. It either has to be a handed straight ahead or he's got to come across the bow. But when you put him in a pistol behind the quarterback or you line him up in the dotted I with the quarterback under center, now you create some indecision as to where you're going to run the ball, especially when you're in your 12 personnel and you're balanced 2 by 2.
Yeah, you were talking about that play late in the second quarter that unfortunately ended up being one of the lowest points, if not the lowest point, in the game for the Eagles, because you called the play from the sofa in the green room. They ran it 19 yards they got on that one after running that out of the pistol. And then, unfortunately, Saquon Barkley wasn't able to get the first down. Bad spot maybe, but was not able to get the first down. Eagles were pushed back. Hurts gets sacked, and then they have the blocked field goal that goes the other way. And next thing you know, it's tied at 10 all of a sudden out of nowhere. Now, there was another point in this game, and unfortunately it was at the tail end of it where cameras – now, we don't know what was said quite yet, and I'm monitoring social media right now to see what Nick Sirianni has to say about it after the game, but the cameras caught him jawing what appeared to be at the crowd. Again, we don't know what was said. People are jumping to the assumption, or jumping to the conclusion right now that there was some things said with fans about whether or not Nick Sirianni should be fired, even though they won, whatever the case might be. Either way, that just does not look good. I mean, Nick Sirianni himself has even said he needs to control his emotions on the sideline, and that's something that he's going to really try to do this year. This ain't a good look no matter which way you slice it, Seth.
Hey, listen, man, when people are standing behind you calling for your job, there's this level of emotion. It's one thing for the newspaper to say it or the radio to say it or fans to say it with outside of, the hearing, him hearing that. But when they're standing right behind you on your bench, your team is winning, you're milking the clock in a 2-minute situation, and they're raining down on him. Now, I'm not trying to make an excuse for him because he's got to be more grown up than that. I don't know where Dom was. Dom should have snatched him up and told him to stay up on the sideline and let that kind of thing go. But these are the kinds of situations that make the fans and the media question whether he should be the leader of this football team when you do dumb stuff like that. As a head coach, you can't even do it as a player. When Jalen Carter did it and the coaches tried to calm him down, that's all everyone wanted to talk about. But your head coach, your CEO, the guy that's in charge, the guy that everything starts and ends with him, is jawing with the fans because you got fans in the stadium or in the seats that are saying, "Oh, we need to fire Nick." Hey, listen, you put yourself in that situation by you by how you've coached this football team, okay? So now you're just going to have to coach your way out of it. Today was a step in the right direction. Get another 2, 3, 4 wins in a row. Now that chatter will begin to diminish. But you put yourself in that situation by losing 6 or 7 games last year at the end of the year and starting off 2-2 this year.
All right, what do you read into it, if anything, Gunner?
Everybody's human. And, you know, a lot of us, we can only take so much. You know, if I'm Nick Sirianni and people are calling for my job, I'm like, wait a minute, we won the game. It wasn't pretty, but we won the game. There's no such thing as perfect games in the National Football League. You know, the bottom line is getting the W's. We're above sea level. We're still at the top of the division. Can you just give us some time to keep – it's only 5 games in. We're not 15 games into this thing. You know, can you just give us some time to work on some of the things that we still need to work on? You know, Linus had his security blanket, and Jalen had his. AJ was back. The man had 116 yards receiving. He had a touchdown. The other weapon was back from a concussion. He had a touchdown. We held off a team that was desperate, came in our backyard that was desperate. Now, if I lost that game, I understand you raining down booze on me, but we got the win. That's the most important thing, and let's build upon that. You know, but Nick is a very emotional guy, and part of Dom's job is to help control. And I put it out there earlier this year, and people went nuts when I put it out there, and it blew up. But the Eagles organization didn't deny that part of Dom's job is to help control Nick Sirianni's emotions. You know, and people would fire back. So a grown man needs a babysitter. Well, you know what? Football's an emotional game. Mm-hmm. It is. You know, and some guys handle it better than others. Mm-hmm. You know. And why are you smirking?
Because I can identify with being extremely emotional.
Yeah, I was going to say, there are things we get emotional about.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it is what it is. And my team's 3-2 now. We're not 2-3. We didn't lose to one of the worst teams. It didn't look pretty, but we got it done. We held them off. We made the big plays when we had to. We made the big stops when we had to. That's all I care about. If I win 15 more ugly games and gets me deep into the playoffs, what are you going to say then?
Right.
You can't say anything.
Yeah. All right, Seth, you talked about the baby steps here. I don't like grading on a curve, but this is the type of game I expected the Eagles to play if they did not get Devontae Smith back, if they did not get A.J. Brown back. They got those guys back for this game, and still the offense, 20 points against the Cleveland Browns. Why don't you think it was more than that against a team that does struggle defensively, had struggled this year, and quite frankly, as we know, the Washington Commanders just lit up last week?
Well, I believe that the Eagles' plan, you know, and you can see that, you know, in the first half of this football game. I believe that, let me see, Saquon Barkley had 12 runs for 42 yards in the first half, okay? I think the intention was to get the run game going to set up the pass game. Well, in the second half, they didn't run the ball all that efficiently. They really didn't. And I keep saying it, and people think that, I'm living in, you know, prehistoric days, running with dinosaurs, you know, that the running game isn't it no more. The way that you win in today's NFL is by throwing the football. I'm telling you, when your team is struggling and you have a dynamic running back like you have in Saquon, and you have an offensive line with the kind of mass that they have, you know, your offense needs to run through your running back. And then off of all of those things, you think about the plays. Now, there was a couple of big plays that were hit down the field, but a lot of the plays that they made today were made off the running game, off a play-action pass. That's how you get this quarterback healthy. We talked about it in the pregame. They got to figure out what their identity is, okay? Even though Jalen Hurts ran the ball 14 times today, and we can't decipher how many of those were actually scrambles, how many were call runs, and how many were tush push, the Eagles ran the ball 36 times today, and they only put it in the air 25 times. To me, I think that's a recipe for success until you can get Jalen Hurts back confident, back playing the way that we need him to play without turning the football over. Sometimes you have to take a step backwards to take 2 steps forward. And in my opinion, that's what you saw today.
All right, fair enough. Now, when you look at Saquon Barkley, though, and you look at the run game of the Eagles, last week, and I hate to go back to it, but you see this team, a Commanders team, go up against the Browns, and they run the football for 6.2 yards per attempt. They ran for 215 yards. Saquon Barkley struggled on an avenue tonight, but I agree with your point, Seth. They were absolutely doing that. I don't know if it's ever been more clear in recent memory with the Eagles, where they were trying to establish that run early in order to set up that play action, and when they did, that actually worked. But why weren't you able to have more success in the run game today with Saquon Barkley today, Gunner?
Well, the Browns made a concerted effort to make sure they take him out of the game. But when you do that, then you have to contend with the fact that there are other ways that they can beat you. The Browns did two things. Number one, they wanted to take Saquon out of the game, and number two, they were going to blitz Jalen. And they did that mostly. Jim Schwartz did that. Seth and I were joking about how Jim Schwartz didn't blitz that much when he was here in Philadelphia, but he sent his dogs after Jalen. Jalen made the necessary plays. Sometimes I think Jalen missed a throw or two that could have been a big play, but Jalen made the necessary plays when he had to. So it's like, you're going to spin that roulette wheel and hope it comes up your number more times than not. It didn't in this case, because two big plays were the difference in Eagles winning and losing this game, two big touchdown strikes. I just wish they had to use the middle of the field more. That Devontae Smith touchdown was perfect example of how if a team's going to send that many people at you, and there's got to be space across the middle of the field. He hit it right there one time, took it to the house for a touchdown. I think they need to do that more often, because more teams are going to come after Jalen for whatever reason. If you look at the way teams have played Jalen this year, more teams are coming after Jalen to make him speed up his decision-making process. And if that's going to be the blueprint on how to defend Jalen and try to diffuse him getting the ball to some of his wideouts, then Kellen Moore, Nick Sirianni, Jalen, they need to go behind closed doors and have another kumbaya meeting and figure out, okay, how do we make these teams pay even more so to make them back off from coming after my quarterback?
It is the blueprint.
It is.
I think that blueprint was set after the San Francisco 49ers game last year, that we're going to come after the quarterback because they don't have side adjustments, they don't have hot routes, and they don't have short routes to beat the blitz. So let's go after them, because every single time we get a blitz look, they want to run go routes, everybody down the field. Yeah. Well, the one sack that Jalen had today was that same situation. They came with a blitz. A.J. Brown is standing out one-on-one against the cornerback. The cornerback's 8 yards off the ball. It's 3rd and 3. Every other quarterback in the league is just going to raise up and throw that ball out there, because A.J. is going to get you 3 yards in the first down. What do? They run all goes. Jalen goes down and he gets sacked. That kind of stuff just like really bothers the heck out of me, because you're not coaching smart. The big plays come when Jim Schwartz made the decision that, okay, we got to come after him every play. Okay, he made that decision because they were down. They had to make something happen, and the offense wasn't making a lot happen for the Cleveland Browns. So again, what happened? What transpired? They forced Jim Schwartz's hand, because D. Gunn, you know as well as I do, Jim Schwartz don't live like that. He don't want to bring that kind of pressure. But when you put him under the gun where you force his hand, now you have those situations where you get the one-on-ones. The Devontae Smith, they came with a blitz. They blocked it up. Devontae ran across. They got a little rub route. The guy's in man-to-man coverage. He gets knocked off. Devontae to the house for 45 yards. Same thing with A.J. Brown. The 2 long balls that he caught, one-on-one situations. Why? Because you caught him in blitz, okay? And if you can protect it up, when you force them to do it, now you can take your shots. But early in the game, you shouldn't be taking shots down the field in blitz situations. You shouldn't be taking shots down the field at all. You should be establishing the run, establishing the short passing game, trying to convert third downs, trying to convert and score every single down, every single possession that you get the ball. Now when you have a lead, now you force the defense rather, to do things that they don't really want to do. Now that's your opportunity when Jalen gets under center and looks out and sees, oh, it's blitz. Check, check, check. Let me see. Does Devontae have the best matchup, or does A.J. Brown have the best matchup? Now you got time to take your chance and take your shots down the field, especially against zero or single high coverage.
All right, when we come back, we're going to take a look at what you guys are saying in the comments, and we'll address your questions when we come back. This is the betPARX post-game show here from Parx Casino, presented by Pond Lehocky. Taking a look right now at the 360 Lounge here at Parx Casino. Great drinks, great entertainment.
At Pond Lehocky Giordano, we understand the impact an injury can have on your life. Our experienced attorneys have recovered billions of dollars for our clients. and we know we can do the same for you. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured at work, give Pond Lehocky a call.
Since 1893, Weber Display and Packaging has been Pennsylvania's leading manufacturer of corrugated packaging and displays. We're family-owned with 4 Philadelphia locations, 2 converting facilities, a warehouse, and a fulfillment center. Designed through delivery, we exceed customer needs. Weber Display and Packaging. Our core values drive everything we do. Come, join our team.
This is Parks.
This is how you roll, this is how it goes. This is how you pop, this is how you rock. Take a chance, do a dance, little romance. This is how you. This is how you win. This is how you excite, this is how you all night. 360 hit me, now we're going all in. I can feel it calling, the crowd, the light, the night, the sights, the vibe is right. This is how you. This is
Parks, Pennsylvania's #1 casino experience. This is how you win.
At Revolution X, we know that fortunes are made in times of uncertainty. Are you selling your investment real estate? Are you interested in deferring your tax with a 1031 exchange? At RevX, we're experts in 1031 exchange planning and the use of passive real estate options using DSTs. Not in the midst of an exchange and want to invest in real estate but don't know where to start? Revolution X has institutional-grade real estate options for any size investor right now. Set up a consultation at RevXWealth.com. RevX, defer the tax, maximize the gain.
This upcoming segment is brought to you by Pond Lehocky. It's that time here on the betPARX postgame show to go to our social media correspondent. Bailey Livesey has been tracking all your comments in our Seth Joyner Show YouTube channel. Bailey, what are the good people asking? What are they saying?
Well, hello. It is great to be back, so let's get right into these questions. Although a win is a win, many viewers said today's game doesn't feel like a win. They looked lost. Do you agree?
I mean, for me, right out of the gate, look, I don't believe in moral victories, but I sure as hell believe in moral losses. And this game feels like that. I wanted this team to blow out. Now, Gunner, you and I, we looked at this game, and we said the Eagles are not going to cover. They're not going to cover. Not going to happen. No. Obviously, they did not cover the 8.5. I wanted this game to be a dominating win, a feel-good win, a prove-it type of win. They got the win. So they did as little as possible for me to feel good. Seth, where are you at on it?
You know, Philadelphia is one hell of a place, man. And listen, I get it. The Phillies just bowed out, so there's some trepidation there. You know, the Eagles got off to an auspicious start, so I get it. I understand. But when a team starts off the way that the Eagles start off, I'm still going to say you have to move in slow steps, okay? Your quarterback has had this mental thing going on with these turnovers for I don't know how many weeks. He just played a game where he didn't turn the ball over, and there's still people in the comments that's just beating Jalen Hurts up. You know, come on, man. Listen, 16 for 25. He missed 9 throws, okay? 264 yards and 2 touchdowns. Most people would be pretty happy. Now, those aren't gaudy numbers, but he didn't throw it a gaudy amount of times either, okay? So the main thing is, how do we get him to start playing more efficiently? He did not look good early, but you have to admit, as the game went on, he got better and better and made better decisions. He ran when he had to run. He made throws to the places where he needed to throw them. He hit balls downfield when those opportunities were there. He hit the tight end on a couple of really good plays early on in the first half. What else? I mean, what else do we want? You know, do we want them to lose so we can beat them up, you know, for a whole nother week? Or do we want to just revel in the fact that the defense and the offense look better today? They're not where they need to be, but they look better than they have the previous 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. I can't emphasize enough. I don't care how you get to the finish line, long as you cross the finish line first. And that's what they did in this game. Was it pretty? By no stretch of the imagination was this a pretty game. But it was pretty enough for them to be above sea level record-wise. That's all you want, you know. good teams find ways to win. I've watched 3 Kansas City games this year. Now, we know Kansas City's a good team, but Kansas City's not blowing people off the field. They've had some luck along the way to get where they are. If Lady Luck is shining brightly on you, you take that whenever you can get it, man, because, you know, when things start going bad, especially in a city like Philadelphia, man, it rains down on you heavy, man. But I'm just shocked that so many people in our chat on this show and across Twitter, when I put the question out there, the Eagles got the win, but how would you describe their overall play? Man, you would have thought the Eagles lost this game by 20 points today, man. Terrible, horrible, some stuff I can't even repeat. When people grade them C+, D-, you know, they played okay. They played down in the competition. Very few people say, I'm happy with the win. And that's why I am. I'm happy they got the win. That's all I care about.
Yeah. Well, I'll put it like this. I'm happy if I was to be happy with something other than just the fact that they won the game, it's the fact that, well, actually Cooper DeJean's play.
Yeah.
And also the fact that Jalen Hurts did not turn the football over.
Growth. There's growth.
There's baby steps. There we are again.
Meanwhile,
I'm trying to tell you.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, Bailey's sitting there like, would you guys shut up so I can get to my next question?
Bailey, what do they have for us next?
Okay, the second question, the coaching staff, specifically Nick, still seems to be the topic of conversation. What are your thoughts?
I'm sorry, I missed it.
Nick Sirianni still a topic of conversation, and the coaching staff.
Yeah.
Thoughts on their performance today?
Listen, I think both sides of the ball at times look good, look lost at others, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. I just think that there's so much talent here that they could be a lot more creative in what they do. You know, when they go 12 personnel with 2 tight ends over here and 2 wide receivers over here, they run their pick game, they run their running game, weak side and strong side. It's becoming really, really predictable. I'd like to see them implement more formations out of the personnel that they have to give defenses more to have to worry about. Because, you know, by formations, you really can only create 2 or 3 running plays and 2 or 3 passing plays out of each formation. So at some point in time, that 12 formation, 2x2 twins with the 2 tight ends to one side, you know, teams are going to come up with ways to be able to stop not only the run that you do out of it, but the pass. Like, they're going to show man, and instead of playing man where the 2 tight ends pick off and you get a Devontae coming across, and that's the second time this year. They did it with Dallas Goedert one other time where they had 13 personnel, and they put Dallas in the slot and ran him across that long play, I guess, against the Saints. So it's the same look. They just use different personnel. But they got to come up with better ways to have more variety in what they run and how they attack teams. Because there really are. If you really break them down, and I've seen enough games now, I always say, if you give me 4 games and I can break down 4 games, I can tell you what that offense is about from head to toe. Now, there might be some anomalies along the way, some key breakers that you implement from here, you know, every once in a while. But if I got 4 games to break down a team, I can tell you exactly what they're about, what they like to do situationally, what they like to do by down and distance, and what they like to do in as far as, you know, where they are, you know, plus or minus, you know, on different sides of the field.
Gunner, how do you feel about coaching today?
It appears the love fest with Nick Sirianni is over. You know, not from my perspective.
Not recently over.
No. Not from my perspective, but the general perspective.
Okay.
Is that the love fest is over with Sirianni. A lot of people are frustrated with him and his coaching staff in terms of how they've coached through these 5 games, and we understand that it hasn't been perfect. And when you bring in the caliber of coordinators like a Kellen Moore and a Vic Fangio, the expectations are a lot higher, and rightfully so. But this team has not played up to that level consistently yet. I still want to see even more motion. But what I've seen of this Eagles offense is not the magnitude of motion that I've seen in the Kellen Moore offense in Dallas and with the Chargers. And I want to know why. You've got incredible personnel. Arguably, you've got 3 of the best skill position players on one team compared to most teams in the National Football League. You've got one of the best 5 tight ends in the game. I mean, obviously he got hurt in this game, but I want to see more motion. I want to see you win more mismatches with oppositions, especially against a team like Cleveland, who was missing their 2 starting safeties. They had 34-year-old Rodney McLeod back there, and backups playing for the most part. You took advantage of them occasionally, but you could have really demoralized that secondary even more so in a game like this. Offensively, it's not where it should be. And I said it at the first game, I'll say it again. This team should accidentally be scoring 25 points a game. They're averaging 18 points a game over the last 4 games. That's inexcusable. Defensively, there's still a lot of times, and even in this game, Cleveland's not a great running team. They average 96.6 yards a game rushing. The DNs are still not setting the edge. They're letting too many guys get to the outside running on them, and I don't get it. And they have a bunch of this wasn't Nick Chubb running the football. Okay, Kareem Hunt's not with them anymore. The running backs that have are decent, but they shouldn't have the kind of lanes they should run through when your ends consistently crash when they should know better. Don't give them that option. But push it back to the inside. You got 2 big first-round picks sitting in the middle waiting to eat up some people, but you keep making the games closer than they should be.
D. Gunn, I'm never one to defend bad defensive end or edge rusher play when it comes to be able to when it comes to being able to keep the edge.
Yeah.
But this is what happens when you're struggling defensively.
Yeah.
The guys that are supposed to be players on the team wind up trying to do too much. I can't tell you how many times I saw Josh Sweat, and I know he's got to set the edge, but he's on a tight end or he's on a tackle, and he sees the ball go inside, and he tries to go inside and make the play instead of holding the outside, and the next thing you know, they bounce around the corner for a big run. Listen, I get it. Everybody wants to make a play, but but everybody has a job to do. And things like this happen when you don't trust your teammates. And trust is a very, very important thing, because if I do my job and the tackle does his job and the other tackle does his job and the other defensive end does his job and the linebackers do their job and everybody fits where they're supposed to fit, then we're supposed to make plays and we're supposed to be able to control offenses. But when you're going bad, the way this defense has been going bad 2 of the 4 games this year, you're going to get this. Guys start to try to do more than what they should, start trying to do somebody else's job. If you're the edge rusher or you're the defensive end, your job is to set the edge and make sure that ball doesn't get around the outside, okay? And I don't care, come hell or high water, that's what you have to do. If that ball goes inside you, you've done your job. That inside is somebody else's responsibility and somebody else's job. And as a defensive end or edge guy or outside linebacker, you have to trust that your teammates will be there and do what they're supposed to do. And if they're not, that's not your fault. You've done your job.
But we both know that's not the case. And the thing that's the most shocking is the guys that are supposed to have contained on the outside are veterans. They're not young, inexperienced players like the Jalen Carters and the Jordan Davises. These are veteran players that are supposed to be setting the edge. And in a lot of cases, the linebackers are not even there to contain on the outside as well. They're getting sucked in as well. It's like everybody keeps getting sucked in, letting these teams run to the outside. At what point do you learn, wait a minute, how many times do we have to practice this before you get it right? You know what's going to happen or should happen? If we're going to keep making this kind of mistake, somebody's got to sit down. Somebody's got to be made an example.
Listen,
you got to make an example of somebody.
Do you see how sometimes in college football, if a player gets called for a penalty or he does something wrong, he comes off the field and is back up? They need to implement that. If you lose the edge, come off the field. Come on, BG, come in the game.
Yeah.
Bring one of those other guys in, okay? Until you get to a point where you understand that this is your job and it's unacceptable for you not to do your job, every time that you make the mistake, the next play, you're coming off the field.
Absolutely.
Bailey, I know you got one more for us. Bailey Livesey, our social media coordinator. What do you got for us?
Okay, last question. The question that everybody wants to know. Do you have high hopes for the game next week against the Giants?
Ooh.
Well, Seth, if this one was a baby step, that one needs to be a giant step forward. That needs to be a Olympian leap forward, that game.
You guys heard my comment earlier. I expect for the Eagles to go up and work the Giants next week, okay? Especially, listen, I don't know their best wide receivers hurt. We don't know whether he's going to be up and whether he's going to be able to play next week. We know that Daniel Jones is pressure adverse. They don't really have a great running game. I would expect for us to go up to New York and dominate this game in every way. Just plain and simple. This was the baby step. I expect for them to take 2 human steps, 2 big grown folk steps next week.
Adult steps.
Adult steps.
There you go.
Excuse me.
When I look at the Giants over the last 4 games, they lost to Washington by 3. They beat the Browns by 6. They lose to the Cowboys by only 5, and they go into Seattle and beat Seattle, okay, on the road by 9 points. Their offensive line is playing better. Daniel Jones has played better the last couple of games. They're going to be at home next week. They know they're only – and they got a game tonight against Cincinnati, so this is going to tell us a lot as well because Cincinnati is a struggling team as well. And they have Cincinnati at home tonight. This is a Giants team that's going to be fired up about playing the Eagles because it's a divisional game. I feel good about the Eagles' prospects of going up the Turnpike and getting a W, but I also feel like I do today. I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any stretch of the imagination. Division games are so unpredictable. I think they can win the game. Before the season started out, I might have penciled in as an automatic win. Mm-hmm. As I sit here right now, nope, can't do it.
I think that's a great way to put it. Automatic win before the season, you're thinking that exact same thing. Do it. But for me, I look at this game today, and I wanted it to move the needle substantially as far as the Eagles being a dominant football team. Show me that you are that much better than the Cleveland Browns. Today they proved me they're 4 points better than the Cleveland Browns. That's what they proved me today. I was looking at this game today to move the needle. I didn't see that.
Come on. I mean, you can't. They're 11 points better than the Cleveland Browns because neither the defense nor the offense could do anything about them not blocking Myles Garrett jumping over the center's head. Somebody should have just raised up and
flipped him
so that they can get that. So they get that playoff. You can't let him just jump over the top. You know that he has the propensity to do that. You've seen him do it before. That's on your special teams coach. Say, hey, don't just nosedive down in there. Stand up and make him trip over you. Then it's a penalty. If he touches the center or he touches that guard, it's a penalty. Yeah. And the Eagles may get the ball back in that situation, or you move it 5 yards closer or 10 yards closer, whatever the penalty is. But I'm not going to go so far as to say that they're only 4 points better than them.
I understand your point. I understand your point. But coming away from this game overall, I expected the Eagles before this game. I wasn't with a lot of other people that were just thinking the Eagles are a terrible football team and they're going no. I thought before and I think after this game that the Eagles are making the playoffs. I think that is happening this year. I have confidence the Eagles will make the playoffs. However, before the game, I thought they'd get bounced out.
Wait.
Yes.
I don't mean to cut you off.
Yeah.
You said I want to just expound on something you just said. As we sit here right now, you have confidence the Eagles making the playoffs?
Yes.
Why?
Because I think they're a lot better than what we have seen. I think with a healthier team continuing, they will show us that they're a better football team than what we saw through the first 4 and now 5 games of the season.
They were healthy today.
They were healthy today. Well, Dallas Goedert got hurt. Grant Calcaterra fortunately stepped up. They've made the adjustment defensively.
So Mailata went out.
Mailata went out as well. But here's overall, this is what I'm trying to say. The point I'm trying to make is they didn't move the needle for me today as far as being a better football team than what I already expected.
Listen, this is even though you miss Devontae and you miss AJ and you miss Lane for a full game. And even though people will say, they had the bye week, they got rested up, they're all back 100% healthy, there still is the timing issue. Because if you look at the first couple of balls that Jalen threw to AJ, they were severely off. Like he was too early on the back shoulder.
Yeah, not on the same page.
Yeah,
right?
He overthrew him. So sometimes when a player is out and he comes back and he's healthy, it doesn't mean that their timing is going to be right there where it was before the injury occurred. Today is a game where Jalen and his wide receivers could finally kind of get back and get some rhythm going. This is why I expect for them to kind of take off next week situationally, because now they've had another week to work together and kind of worked out some of the wrinkles. Jalen played a mistake-free game, mistake-free from the standpoint that he didn't turn the ball over. He didn't throw an interception. He didn't lose the ball via the fumble. Baby steps, man. I keep trying to tell y'all, man, they're going to be fine. They're going to be fine. Now, when they get some of these tougher teams, when we get the Cincinnati Bengals to roll in, and D-Gun, I hear you talking about Cincinnati. Yeah. Joe Burrow's playing lights out right now. Cincinnati just can't stop anybody.
No, you're right.
Okay?
You're right.
But that's going to be a challenge for the defense. And it may turn into a challenge for the offense because they're going to have to keep pace. But at least you got these 2 games back-to-back against foes that you should beat, games that you should win. That's only going to raise the level of confidence in what you can do and how productive you can be.
Look, you bring up Cincinnati. Their last 3 games, they've scored 33, 34, and 38 points. Are you confident right now as we sit here the Eagles can score 30-plus points?
Well, we saw them score 30-something points in the first week.
So I mean, happened since then. That's what's so perplexing is they put up 34 points in the first game. They're averaging 18 over the last 4.
Listen, I will tell you this. it just loses me. Who they lose to before the bye?
Who?
The Buccaneers.
Tampa Bay.
The Buccaneers.
Yeah.
Okay. The Buccaneers defense and the Browns defense are in a completely different league.
Absolutely.
What we're talking about as far as the Giants defense and the Cincinnati Bengals defense in the week after.
Yeah.
So I think you have to realistically look at these defenses and ask yourself, okay, if you're playing against one of the better defenses in the league, yeah, our offense potentially is going to struggle. So that's the point where you need our defense to step up a little more, a la the Saints game. The defense showed up. The offense didn't set the world on fire, but the defense played well enough for the offense to play kind of mediocre and for them to still win the game. I kind of see these next two games being that situation where, okay, we got through this week's game, so we kind of got our footing a little bit. Okay, next week we go and we beat the Giants and we beat them convincingly. Now our footing is better than just than it was this week. Now we going against the Cincinnati Bengals, and the situation, in my opinion, is, hey, okay, they got a prolific offense, and they may score some points. But our offense is on the uptick, too. And every once in a while, if we can make something happen on the defense, if we can get some key stops, if we can get some turnovers on the defensive side of the ball, and the offense continues to climb, now we're sitting in a good position.
If I were a betting man, I would bet money that they will beat the Giants and the Bengals. But what I don't like is both of those games back-to-back are in their domains and not on the Eagles' backyard. And I think that kind of sways momentum a little bit more. You're playing two desperate teams in a span of 7 days back-to-back. And that is grueling when you're trying to establish something, because those teams want to prove they're not as bad as everybody thinks they are. The Giants took that initial step by going. Seattle's one of the most difficult places in all the NFL to get a win, okay? And they went in there and beat them by 9 points on the road, okay? Now, depending on what happens against this game tonight, because here we talk about Cincinnati and the Giants. They're playing each other tonight. So we're going to find out a lot about these two teams, okay? And that's going to set the tone for how we perceive what might happen for the next couple of weeks, because the Eagles have to go in their domain to play those games.
Hey, listen, the Eagles are 3-2. Washington's 4-2. Okay? They better go into these next 2 weeks with their own sense of desperation, okay? Because if Washington wins one more game and the Eagles lose another one, they ain't catching them. They're not catching them, man.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So
All right.
they better play with some level of desperation. As bad as they've been and as inefficient and as up and down as they've been, there has to be some level of desperation on their part. You would have thought that they would have came out in severe desperation mode being 2-2 today. But sometimes when you come off of a bye, you know, the excitement is there. The execution might not be 100% there, even though you've implemented some new things and you worked on some new things. And especially when you're playing against a defense that's as formidable as the defense as the Cleveland Browns are, in my opinion.
Fair enough. Bailey Livesey, thank you so much for always monitoring our comment section here on the Seth Joyner Show YouTube channel. Make sure you guys like and subscribe to the Seth Joyner Show YouTube channel. Bailey, thanks so much. When we come back, we'll take a look at stock up and stock down when it comes to two Eagles defensive players. That's when we return to the betPARX post-game show from Parx Casino, presented by Pond Lehocky. Taking a look right there at the beer garden here at Parx Casino. Always a great time.
Stick to the code. I'm in my zone. Let's go. I'm back in my bag. I'm wrecking the wins and it's making them.
You've got your Sunday obsession, and we got you. Now with Verizon, get NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube TV on us and get every out-of-market Sunday game. Plus $800 off Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6. Only on Verizon.
See you Sunday. And the next thing I knew, I woke up in a hospital bed.
Has a friend ever told you a story about an accident and someone says,
you should probably sue them.
Forget your friend. Call Pond Lehocky Giordano.
We're an injury law firm that's recovered billions of dollars for our clients.
And with our vast network of attorneys throughout the country, we know we can do the same for you.
So if you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
One conversation is all it takes, and you won't pay a dime until we win.
Sell your car to us, no hassle, no fuss. DavisBuysCars.com.
Did you know that Davis Honda will pay top dollar for your car? Go to DavisBuysCars.com and get an instant quote on your vehicle. We'll make the purchase as easy as possible and put cash in your hand faster than you can say DavisBuysCars.com.
Sell your car to us, no hassle, no fuss. DavisBuysCars.com.
Gentlemen, are you ready for a wardrobe update? Introducing Divine Nine's Custom Menswear, your clothier for truly unique, custom-made threads. With Divine Nine, you can design your own one-of-a-kind suit, jacket, slacks, shirts, golf pants, and shorts, perfectly handcrafted by our skilled artisans who will bring your vision to life. Prepare to stand out from the crowd with Divine Nine's Custom Clothier, official clothier of Seth Joyner. Custom clothing made for you.
This next segment is brought to you by Verizon. Welcome back to the betPARX post-game show. Seth Joyner, Derrick Gunn, Marc Farzetta with you. Don't forget, betPARX Sportsbook at Parx Casino, Pennsylvania's #1 casino. Parx Casino, this is how you win. Download the betPARX online casino and sportsbook app. New users get up to $1,000. $1,000 casino bonus back. When you download the app, go to betPARX for details. Must be 21 or older in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Michigan, Ohio, or Maryland. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Now, I wanted to go back on something that we were talking about a little bit earlier. The cameras, of course, of Fox catching Nick Sirianni on the sideline, yelling something towards the crowd. Looking at some of the reports on social media, Nick Sirianni, after the game, simply said he was just excited to get the win. And some people assuming that the players wanted him to be his emotional self on the sideline. The same guy that walked off the field in Kansas City last year screaming, "See ya, see ya." And then, of course, the things kind of fell apart after that. But, Derrick Gunn, you see that? You see the reports coming out of the locker room. What are you hearing? What do you think about it? I
can tell you this. The head of security / coach had to grab him to get him off the field. I'm not going to go into much more than that, but if the surface report says he was just excited about getting a win, I'm like, okay, I'm going to leave it at that for the most part because I wasn't there. I didn't hear what he said, but I'm just telling you what I've been being told is that he was grabbed, hey, get your bleep off the field, let's go. Basically, that was it. So it tells me it was a little bit more than that. You know, like you said, go back to that Kansas City game when they won that game because it was a scam. Marcus Valdez scam, dropped that pass. Yeah. It was a short touchdown, and it went bad. It went south after that. Well, you know, Sirianni is a fiery individual.
Sure.
Very emotional, very passionate. But, again, when you're in a city like Philadelphia, there's no gray area. Either they love you or they don't love you. There's no gray area. And people are so indifferent to Sirianni right now, and you can't tell me he doesn't hear all the noise, the outsized noise about how people feel about him right now, whether it's on radio, TV, or in the stands for that most part. You've got to be smarter than to go potentially jaw-jacking with fans who are raining down fire Sirianni from the stands from everything that we're hearing, okay, so to speak. You got a W. That's all you care about. As a head coach of your football team, you got a W. You put your hat down, you turn and get off that field quick as you can. Go celebrate that W in the locker room with you guys. Go to the podium, say what you have to do, and get out of Dodge. Plain and simple.
Easy enough. We talked about before the break, we're going to talk about some stock up and stock down when it came to this Philadelphia Eagles defense. I don't want to jinx anything, gentlemen, but I look at the box score, and I see a name, Bryce Huff, and next to it are numbers that are not zero. Crazy enough. 2 total tackles in the game today. He was credited for 1 solo tackle and a half sack. So the parade, I believe, will go up Broad Street from the stadiums to the Art Museum, and we'll celebrate Bryce Huff Day as he took advantage of whatever opportunities he had today. So stock appears to be up for him one day. Now, we do have a theory that it's not going to count as a sack. The first sack of the game, I believe it was, maybe the second sack. Right. We think it was a gain, maybe a 1-yard gain by Deshaun Watson. But Bryce Huff actually shows up on the stat sheet, so that's something. So I would assume his stock goes up today somewhat.
No, heck no.
Okay.
No. Matter of fact, I'm calling my stockbroker. I want you to sell every share I have in Bryce Huff. I want all 51 million shares sold.
All right. Do you sell? Do you sell on Bryce Huff? Or is this a baby step for him too?
No. Listen, I said it early in the season. I'll say it again. And I even told D. Gunn, I said, talk to me after week 4. And, you know, I'm not a prophet or anything, but look at what we've got. We had a good day rushing the passer today. You know, Nolan Smith looked like he kind of turned up a little bit today. but I still see nothing whatsoever out of Josh Huff. And I think that at some point in time, they're going to have to realize that they got to relegate this guy, D. Gunn, to third down rush situations, obvious third and long pass situations, because you can't play him on first and second down. You can't. I mean, his numbers have dropped precipitously. You know, I think Nolan Smith actually started today over him. So I look for those numbers to continue to drop and for him to just move into purely a pass rush specialist.
Like he was with the Jets and had success. Like Eagles haven't cracked that code yet.
He's getting paid pretty handsomely.
It's a nice promotion. Promotion he wasn't ready for, unfortunately.
You're right. He played 40% of the snaps with the Jets and had double-digit sacks. We always talk about how sometimes players don't fit certain schemes. Maybe Fangio's scheme is not the perfect fit for him. You know, maybe Howie Roseman got enamored with the double-digit sacks and said, we can get this guy cheaper than what Hassan Reddick is asking us to pay him. When they offered Hassan Reddick $17 million a year and he turned up his nose at it, he wanted more like $24, $25 million a year. Well, he's not playing. Bryce Huff is not producing. So both the Jets and the Eagles came up with a dud in this move.
Fair enough. All right, hey, there's a lot of injuries, unfortunately. We'll get to a couple other names in a second. But our sports doc himself, Dr. Bruce Grossinger, is joining us right now. Unfortunately, Doc, we saw Dallas Goedert leave the game early. How concerned should we be about Dallas Goedert, Eagles tight end?
Well, I'm concerned because apparently he has a bad enough hamstring injury that he was immediately inactivated for the rest of the game. And we certainly know what it's like from watching A.J. Brown, that we're concerned whether this is a grade 2 or a grade 1. And likewise, Mailata, you know, they come in pairs. They always say injuries come in pairs. So Mailata was able to walk to the tunnel, but it had to be carted into the locker room. So both of them have identical injuries, which are hamstrings. Again, we would hope it's a grade 1. They might be back for the Giants away at MetLife next week. But if it's a grade 2, that means there's some structural injury to the hamstring, and that would be a 2 to 4 week injury.
When you look at Darius Slay's injury, dealing with the knee injury, something he has been dealing with, he was also ruled out well after he suffered the injury in the game. What do you know about Darius Slay and his status?
What I've heard is that what you indicated, this was an aggravation of a prior injury. He really took himself out of the game, like he was playing in the game. We didn't see a specific injury, and basically went into the locker room. So I'm sure he's going to get an MRI tomorrow. We hope it's just a restrain. We can harken back to Jalen Hurts, where he had a knee that was gimpy on and off, but made it through the year. He's an important guy. So we're going to certainly keep focused on the diagnostics, which will likely be an MRI of the knee.
Doc, is there anybody else that came out of this game a little banged up that the Eagles haven't really reported on yet?
One of the pieces of good news is Isaiah Rodgers took a really big hit. Actually, he delivered the hit on the tackle, and he got the wind knocked out of him. He went into the tent. He didn't have to go into a concussion protocol, and he returned to play. So that's a bit of good news. They certainly need their D-backs.
Absolutely. And last one, I think, is Jordan Mailata. He also left the game. We just saw Lane Johnson come back. Eagles finally thought they had their offensive line fully assembled yet again. Jordan Mailata goes out. What do you know about him?
What was reported by Dave Zangaro of NBC is that he had a hamstring injury. So certainly better when you see, you're always worried about a knee or an ankle, but apparently this is a hamstring injury. He's a big guy. So using an abundance of caution, they carted him into the locker room. He's a guy who's been remarkably healthy over the last few years. So we can hope that it's just a straight or a grade 1. But obviously, you know, between Slay, Goddard, and Mailata, they're three very key players who are injured in this game.
Hey Doc, you know, staying with Mailata for a moment, and I know he's a bigger guy, but when you talk about a guy like that getting a hamstring injury, and most guys just walk off the field, the fact that he was carted to the locker room, does that alarm you in some ways?
It does. It makes me think that there may be a structural tear, much like A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown was out for several weeks. He was able to use the bye week and came back and was fine. So they managed him perfectly. So, yes, when you have to be carted in there's concern this could be a grade 2 with some structural muscle injury. He will get an MRI, and the MRI is a very good test to see if there's any structural injuries to the portions of the hamstrings, which are the 3 muscles in the posterior thigh.
Doc, there seems to be a lot of hamstring injuries. Unlike in my day, most of the time when you've seen a guy get a hamstring, he was running full speed, tried to kick it up a notch, and he pulled a hamstring that way. But you're seeing like tight ends and tackles and, just players at every position come up with hamstring injuries. What is going on in that area? Is it a stretching thing? Is it a strength thing? In your opinion, because I've never seen so many hamstring injuries so early in the season as what this team is experiencing.
What I really believe, Seth, it's due to lack of training. These muscles need to be loaded. And all these Wednesday walkthroughs and this cake schedule with the in the preseason, I just don't think they're in as good enough shape. They're just not. And they can spend all the time they want in the gym. But as far as ballistic training, as you indicate, that means training in motion. I'm not there, but I'm very concerned about their kinetic and ballistic training, and the fact that they don't play their starters all preseason. That's way different than you. You did 3-a-days. Seth, when you went to Lehigh, people were throwing up, and you went back on the field. So I think there's a happy medium. But I believe that there's a lot of concern, not only here, but across the league. So many calf injuries and so many hamstrings. It tells me that they're not getting kinetic and ballistic training the way they should.
Fair enough. Dr. Bruce Grossinger, thank you so much. Our sports doc, appreciate all the insight as per usual, Doc.
Thank you. Have a good night now.
You as well. Thanks so much. Before we get to break here, we were talking about our stock up and stock down here, and when we were talking about guys like Bryce Huff actually recording half a sack, at least for now, there's one other name that I know we're going to break down, and we'll get to him in a second, but Quinyon Mitchell is a guy that I think we've all been pretty high on. Came very close to his first interception, and it was Chauncey Gardner-Johnson coming across the top as a safety, rolling over to his side to try to help. The ball was almost in his hands, jarred loose by C.J. G.J. I've never seen a rookie go off a little. It looked to me, Seth, that he was going off on the veteran for getting in the way of his first career interception.
Hey, listen, man, I can understand his frustration because he's had his hands on 2 or 3 this year that he didn't wind up coming up with. But listen, you cannot be mad at your safety because the safety has to get over top. You're in single high safety. CJ did a good job of getting over the top and making a play on the ball. He actually had his hands on the ball more than Quinyon had his hands on the ball. But you can't be mad at guys for making plays. I understand he wants to get his first interception. It will come. He's a phenomenal player. It's just a matter of time before he gets his just due. But I'm not mad at CJ for getting over there because how many times have we seen our cornerbacks get beat deep where the safety's supposed to be over the top and the quarterback is good enough to look him off one way where he can't get over the top in the other direction. So, listen, this is just how the game flows and how the game goes sometimes.
All right, when we come back, there is no argument that goes on in our green room that is longer lasting than the subject of Nakobe Dean and what the Eagles should do with him. He led the Eagles in tackles today, but numbers never lie, but as I like to say, they sure as heck can deceive. We'll talk about Nakobe Dean's performance as the Eagles middle linebacker when we return here on the betPARX postgame show presented by Pond Lehocky. Take a look right there at the betPARX Sportsbook right next to us here at Parx Casino. Enjoy the game, win yourself some cash.
Pride, passion, and persistence. These are the values that drive us all at Ron Jaworski Golf. We strive to deliver outstanding conditions as well as playability for golfers of all ages and abilities. Our championship golf courses offer a variety of challenges from a Linc-style walk along the river to an escape into the pines and everything in between. My team at Ron Jaworski Golf is committed to delivering memorable experiences every single day. See all we do at ronjaworskigolf.com.
It's happening again. Those missed tackles are starting to stack up. Your friends pleading with players who can't hear them, sweating it out week after week, but not you. Why? Because whether they score or not, there's always another way to win on the betPARX app. New casino users score up to $1,000 bonus back in their first 24 hours.
At Pond Lehocky, we're neither a pond nor a hockey team. In fact, I don't even know how to skate.
Cut.
We're the injury law firm that you want fighting for you.
With our vast network of attorneys across the country, we know the playbook on injury law.
It's how Pond Lehocky recovered billions of dollars for more than 100,000 injured and disabled workers.
And we know we can do the same for you.
So give Pond Lehocky a call. No other law firm will fight harder for you.
And you'll never pay a dime until we win.
Stick to the code. I'm in my zone. Let's go. I'm back in my bag. I'm wrecking the wins and it's making them.
You've got your Sunday obsession, and we got you. Now with Verizon, get NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube TV on us and get every out-of-market Sunday game. Plus $800 off Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6. Only on Verizon.
See you Sunday.
This segment is brought to you by Stay at Home Home Care. Marc Farzetta, Seth Joyner, and Derrick Gunn from Parx Casino for the betPARX postgame show presented by Pond Lehocky. Over 3,200 slots here at Parx Casino, just 20 minutes north of Center City, Philadelphia. The name that we talk about probably the most, that gets the most heated other than the quarterback, is Nakobe Dean, Eagles linebacker. Of course, maybe 2 good games this year, 3 maybe bad games this year. Led the team in tackles today. Did a heck of a job as far as accumulating those stats. However, are the Eagles using him right? If they're going to use him at all, are they using him in the best possible position? Has the Eagles coaching staff, Vic Fangio and such, put him in a position to actually make plays for this team and put him in the best possible position to help this team win football games? First and foremost, what do you think of Nakobe Dean as a linebacker? Good, terrible? Where does he rank, Seth?
I just don't believe he's an NFL linebacker. I've seen enough to make that assessment on my own. He doesn't play downhill. He doesn't understand where he fits, and he misses way too many tackles to be, a starting linebacker in the National Football League. I don't care how many tackles he had today and how many tackles, the fact that he led the team in tackles. The Detroit Lions, my mind's just all over the place.
Browns?
The Browns still rushed for 100 yards today. And my problem with Nakobe Dean is most of the tackles that you see him make are 3, 4, 5, 6 yards, 7 yards downfield. That's not playing linebacker. Linebacker means you're backing up your defensive line, which means that you're all trying to make plays and you're trying to get the ball. You're trying to hold the ball carrier to minimal yards. It's not very often that you see him make a tackle for loss, or you see him make a tackle for no gain or 1 yard or 2 yard gain. 9 times out of 10, he's making plays 5, 6, 7 yards down the field. And he is just atrocious in the open field. He had Deshaun Watson in the open field, and Deshaun Watson, he's not a shifty runner. He gave him a little juke move and he missed him. If you take the right angles, and we talked about this, about them getting rid of the donut, and me talking about Zach Bond getting shook by Jeremiah Trotter Jr. in that video. It's the same thing. If you don't take the right angle towards the tackle and you don't understand where your help is, you're always going to overrun or underrun plays, and it's going to be problematic. So listen, I've heard D. Gunn talk about we need to try him outside rushing the passer. I just don't think that he's it.
Okay.
And I know that we haven't talked about Devin White being released, during the bye week. I get it. If he's not a fit or whatever the situation is, it's hard for me to believe that you never gave this kid a chance to get out on the field and show what he could do, and you made the decision to just give Nakobe the job and then try to force feed to us that, he beat him out in camp. I don't buy that. Because all training camp long, he ran with the number ones, ran with the ones. And then we get to week 1, and then they want to come out with this narrative that, he beat him out. Well, why wasn't he running with the ones at some point in time during training camp? You have 5 weeks of training camp and 3 preseason games. Why was he not running with the ones at all? And then all of a sudden we get to week 1, and now you're going to make him the starter. I just, at least let me see with my own eyes that he can't play before you let the guy go,
Gunner, before you respond to that, is Nakobe Dean an NFL linebacker? Seth says no.
For me, the jury's still out on him.
Okay.
Before he got hurt last year, he was playing decent. Then he got hurt and missed significant time last year. To me, he seems like lost at times. I see too much clutching and grabbing for a guy who should be blowing up plays. I see him get faked out too much for a guy who should be rock solid if you're an inside linebacker at the NFL level. I've said time and time again, I think he's way too light to be playing on the inside. If he is to have any type of success and any type of longevity in the National Football League, he needs to be outside. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be lights out better playing on the outside, but I think with him having more freedom to maneuver from the outside, I think he would be more effective from the outside. I'm not saying it would be that much better compared to what we're seeing now, but I think they're making a mistake trying to play him on the inside because as of right now, he hasn't shown that he can hold that down.
All right, that leads to the question then. Is he right now put in the best possible position to help this team defensively? Would he be better suited on the outside? Even you got your jury's still out as far as you're concerned, Derrick. Seth, you're saying not an NFL player, not even on the inside, not the outside, whatever. Would it be better if the Eagles move Zach Bond to the inside and move Nakobe Dean to the outside?
No, because Zach Bond is a faster player. That's why you got him playing the Wills, because of his versatility, his ability to cover in space, his ability to rush the passer when you want to put him outside and go to your 5-man front, his ability to blitz at time. As a matter of fact, he's now tied with Josh Sweat, in sacks with 2 sacks apiece. I don't think that Nakobe Dean is versatile enough to move him anywhere else. He's an inside backer. He played inside backer at Georgia. He played behind a big defensive line that protected him all game, that allowed him to run to the ball. And right now, he just doesn't seem to know where he fits. He doesn't understand, in my opinion, okay, if they run the ball to your left and they're running the stretch play, he doesn't know whether to stay in this gap or whether to hit outside. And when he hits outside, he's trying to get there with so much speed. And I coach linebackers like this all the time. It's like, listen, the running back is lined up 4 yards deep, okay? So that means he's got to take up 4 yards of real estate before he even gets back to the line of scrimmage. You're lined up 4 yards deep. So you don't have to be in a hurry to get to where you need to get to. You just need to get there efficiently. If a guy's trying to block you, you got to figure out, am I going under the block or does the defense require that I get over the top? Like I saw a play today where he needed to get over the top and he got caught up face-to-face on the offensive lineman, and the offensive lineman just gobbled him up. Like rip across, same foot, shoulder, rip across. Now you can hold your ground if you same foot, same shoulder, and rip across the face, and now you're sitting right there. And now when you show color, that running back has to make a decision. Am I going to try to run him over? Am I going to cut the ball back? But when you get ate up by the offensive lineman, now the running back sees no color in the hole at all. He hits another gear and takes off.
Gunner, do you think he would be better on the outside?
I'm going to stick with that. I think that's his last option. It is the coaching staff's job to find out how he could be best utilized, how he can use his assets the best in terms of his speed.
I know how he can be best utilized.
Cut him.
Sit his ass over there on the bench.
Cheering on Jeremiah Trotter Jr.?
Yes.
Might as well. But you asked me the question.
Yes.
If you're gonna play
yes, I did.
If you're going to play him, where are you going to play him? How many times have I been screaming about get him out of the middle? I just want to see what he can do from the outside. I don't know if he's going to have any more success than he's had from the inside. But it's Fangio's job to find out what best suits him. Fangio's been around the block, has coached many linebackers. He should be able to sit down and look at the film and say, you know what? This is not working. Let's try this with him. Whatever it is, hybrid position, whatever the case you want to be. But right now, basically he's a liability and not an asset.
That's what it appears to be right now. And I know the stats and the numbers make it look one other way, but I don't buy into it that much. When talking about, to flip it back on to the offensive side of things, how Grant Calcaterra today showed me something. Dallas Goedert went out. Grant Calcaterra came in, had that, 35-yard reception almost right out of the gate. Seth, you were talking about it. This is a guy that turned it into overdrive, didn't even know he had that gear. Got a ball, got some space to run, and he certainly took advantage of that. Now, if this is anything serious with Dallas Goedert, hopefully it's not. The Eagles, they trusted Grant Calcaterra. They kept him on this roster. He made the team out of training camp. It wasn't like Jack Stahl where all of a sudden he found his way back onto the Eagles. This is a guy that the Eagles looked at and said he might be able to do something for us if he can stay healthy. He impressed me by actually seeing him out there and run with that football a little bit.
Well, I think Jalen is confident in him. What did I say? 4 catches for 67 yards, I believe it was. If your quarterback gives you that many targets, and you're the backup tight end, it seems to me that there's a level of confidence that you have in him. I think he's always been that other tight end, that other pass-catching tight end that they realized they need to have when they really wanted to throw the ball. I think Jack Stahl is more of a blocking tight end, but because Dallas Goedert is multidimensional, he can do both. There's no need of having Jack Stahl up. You just hope that you can get by when you really want to run the football and you need an extra tight end to block that, he can actually get the job done. But he showed me a whole different gear when he caught that ball. I was shocked. He caught the ball, and for a split second, it looked like he was waiting to get tackled. And when he realized nobody was around him, he just turned on the jets. So if we can kind of get him playing like that all the time, we're going to need for him to play like that all the time. If Dallas Goedert is going to be out for any significant amount of time.
Goedert, this is a guy the Eagles have kept around. He's had his concussion issues, a lot of concussion issues, unfortunately. A missed time last year as well. Always a concern when that comes up, but he finally gets an opportunity to run in some space today. What did he show you?
He showed me that he's NFL worthy, and I like how they identified him. When Goedert went down, Calcaterra got his chance, and he made the most of his opportunities. And he has a little bit of speed. I thought his speed was deceptive. I didn't know when he could run like that, okay? But he's always been sure-handed. His deficiency is blocking. Seth and I, we've talked about a number of times, the Eagles have one complete tight end, and they have 2 tight ends that are bits and pieces. One does one thing well, doesn't do the other thing well. Calcaterra is a pass catcher, Stoll is the blocker. But in this situation, Calcaterra was utilized in the best possible spot. They got him in open space. He made the most of the opportunity, put him in position to get some points out of the situation. So hopefully, if Goedert's going to have a hamstring injury, it's going to keep him out another week or so. Hopefully, we're going to see Calcaterra's role expanded because you're going to need that the next couple of games against the Giants and Cincinnati to open up that offense even more so. We know what Saquon can do. We know what the 2 wideouts can do. There's no guarantee that one of those 2 guys might not go down again. That's just the nature of the NFL. So you're going to have to be able to count on some of these guys who are waiting in the wings an opportunity. Calcaterra is a hungry guy who wants to show that he's NFL worthy. Now's his time to shine if Goddard's down for any significant amount of time.
The thing that scares me? The thing that scares me is the fact that Dallas plays such a significant role in the run game, blocking.
Yeah.
And you don't have that other guy. You don't have that blocker. And even if you do in this situation, this is the versatility of having him and why I always said he was a piece that the Eagles so underutilized. If he's that good of a blocker and you're going to use him to block so much, then he should be even that much of a weapon in the pass game. But if you're in a situation where you want to go a 1 tight end set and you want to run the football, you're not going to leave Calcaterra in the game. For all intents and purposes, You're going to bring Jack Stahl up next week. And when you put him in the game, well, guess what? Everybody's going to know that, they're going to run the ball here because they don't throw the ball to this guy. He's a blocker. When you go with the other one in the game, they're going to pass the ball because this guy's the pass catcher. That's the problem with not having, having developed, that tight end. And I get it, it's hard. But that's the problem with not developing that tight end that has both elements to, what they bring to the table.
Flip it back to the defense for a second before we give our final takeaways from this game. Last thing I want to ask you guys before that, is it possible that after all the struggles Howie Roseman has had in drafting a cornerback, could he have possibly, now one game doesn't make a career with Cooper DeJean here, but could he possibly have hit 2 home runs with Quenya Mitchell and Cooper DeJean? Seth, you're already shaking your head yes.
Yeah, he has.
Nodding your head yes.
He has. He has, because I'm telling you right now, Quenya Mitchell is the truth. Just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That guy's going to be our cornerback for the next 10 to 12 years. Cooper DeJean, listen, I watched him run with an NFL wide receiver stride for stride today on a deep ball. So that tells me that he has the speed. I think everybody kind of wondered, well, he was a great player, at Iowa, but can he do it at this level? And I honestly believe that, he may have the ability to do that. So at some point, we may be looking at both of those guys on the corner and looking D Gunn for a slot guy.
I agree. Well, you know what? We keep forgetting Sidney Brown's going to be coming back. And Sidney Brown, if there's one thing we know about Sidney Brown, he plays with reckless abandon to the point sometimes he hurts himself more than he hurts the opposition. But here we talk about tackling. Sidney Brown's a good tackler. Sidney Brown can flat out run. You get him back there with CJ GJ, and if it's Keely Ringo on one side and Quinyon Mitchell on the other side, I like that nucleus, okay? Isaiah Rodgers on one side, Quinyon Mitchell on the other side, I like that nucleus, they're going to grow together. That's what you want. Get that young nucleus in there now. Let them grow together so by the time December rolls around, they know exactly what's expected of each other.
Now, on that point, is Sidney Brown going to go safety or is Sidney Brown going to go and play slot?
Wherever they put him on the field. You don't know.
Well, I'm asking you, where would you put him?
Jeez.
I mean, because if you're talking about taking away this, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson has not been impressive this year.
I think you have to raise the level of competition at the safety position.
I agree.
Reed Blankenship has, he's got a sack. He's got
2 INTs.
2 INTs. But I haven't been overly impressed with his tackling either. CJ GJ played his first game of the season where he didn't give up a touchdown today. A lot of guys don't look overly impressive. And I think sometimes when you earmark a job for a guy, that he kind of gets, especially in today's NFL because of the money. When you sign a guy, you sign a free agent, D Gunn, for the most part, that guy knows he's going to be on the roster because they got X amount of dollars, invested in him.
Right.
And sometimes once guys get the money, they will exhale instead of continuing to play at a high level. You take a guy like Sidney Brown and you insert him in that rotation at safety. Now all of a sudden he starts making plays and starts taking playing time away from other guys. All of a sudden that begins to raise the level of play across the board.
Fair enough. All right, last question for you. This is the one that means the most for the next week at least. Before they take on the Giants, what did this game do for you? What is your ultimate takeaway from the Eagles beating the Browns today? Gunnar, I'll ask you first.
It showed me that they were a resilient bunch, that they did just enough to get a win in a game that everybody expected them to win and anticipated them winning by a large margin. But it also showed me there's still much work to be done in all facets of the game. But when you have a lot to work on from a winning outing compared to a losing outing, it helps make the next preparation a little bit easier. Now, you're going to face a different type of opponent coming up 7 days from now, but you can go back, look at the drawing board, because personnel-wise, the Giants aren't that much better than Cleveland, okay? And like we said, we don't know if their number one pick, who's not playing tonight because of a concussion protocol, will be ready to play next week. If he is, you're going to have to factor him in because that young man has been making some phenomenal plays in the time that he's been on the football field. But you got Daniel Jones at quarterback. You got iffy running backs. You got defense that's okay but has played better. Offensive line has played better. So you're going to have to step up to the challenge. I always heard, Seth, that when you beat up and you're battered, it feels a lot better and you heal a lot quicker when you're coming off a W more so than an L. So that's the case. They're coming off a W. They have a lot to work on, but it's a positive work that they're going to put in this week.
Fair enough. Seth, what do you take away from this win today?
Well, I'm just going to stand on that hill of slow progression. We talked about it in the pregame. I said that the Eagles need to run the ball. That needs to be their identity, to establish the run first, which then allows them to get what they want in the passing game and open up the passing game. I think defensively, I said, they need to be more aggressive. The cornerbacks need to get up and press more. They need to challenge wide receivers at the line of scrimmage. I think that, Vic Fangio need to be more aggressive in his play calling. He was that today. So baby steps. Baby steps. You got the win. That was what was most important. It wasn't it wasn't the most impressive win, but when you add them all up at the end of the year and you're where you want to be, nobody's going to look back at this game today and still say, well, they potentially won the division, or they're got the number 2 seed. But you remember back in week 6, how nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to do that. So we're going to talk about this week, and we're going to beat it up and beat it to death. And by the time we get to next Sunday and the Eagles, at 1 o'clock when they kick off, against the Giants up at MetLife Stadium, today's game is going to be an afterthought. And the fact that it's an afterthought and they've got an opportunity to take another step forward, to grab one more ladder on the run, to make one more step up the steps to where they need to be, that's all you can ask for.
Gotcha. All right, they got that game 1 o'clock. It's their last 1 o'clock kickoff until December.
Oh, no.
So we're going to have some late night fun here at PARX Casino. You can have it, too, at PARX Casino. For Seth Joyner, Eagles Hall of Famer, Eagles veteran reporter, Mr. Derrick Gunn, I'm Marc Farzetta. Thanks for watching the betPARX postgame show presented by Pond Lehocky. Thanks to our whole crew. Thanks to our social media correspondent, Bailey Livy, as well. We appreciate you guys for joining us. Make sure you smash the like button and also follow and subscribe to the Seth Joyner Show YouTube channel. Be back with you guys before that 1 o'clock kickoff against the New York Giants next Sunday. See you then.
Way to go, Birds.